For anybody listening who is still wrestling with the desire to drink, don't be discouraged. You can stay sober for a long time while you're still wrestling with that feeling or that question in your mind of whether you're going to have to drink again. I was, given the tools of the program to pray, to meditate, to go to a meeting, to call my sponsor, call another alcoholic, be of service. These were the things I did when the desire to drink was, trying to take me out. And those tools are a sufficient substitute.
I heard it through the grapevine. Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour, featuring the collective voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Don, an alcoholic in Greensboro, North Carolina.
And I am Olis, an alcoholic in Oakland, California.
Woo-hoo! Olis! Heard anything new lately?
Oh my goodness. I heard a joke. You ready?
Okay.
Scarlett said, you can pick any higher power that you want, but I suggest you not pick a doorknob.
Why?
Because they always turn on you. So cute.
Well, I like that. They do turn on you, but sometimes they turn in a good way.
Yes, may be true.
I read the Grapevine book. I've been using it as a text for my morning prayer and meditation, and it's the book, Prayer and Meditation. They're short. You can read one story. And there's a story in there about someone using a doorknob as their higher power, and it really works. I guess turns on them in a good way. What's the title of it? It's Holy Order of Doorknobs. Well, it's December 2nd. It's a new month. And you know what that means?
Yes, Don. It is time for the monthly changing of your bed sheets and your monthly shower.
Yeah, well, I figured you got to take a shower once a month, whether I need it or not. But that's not what I was thinking, Alice.
No.
The new grapevines are here.
Bubbles. Don has bubbles for us.
I often skip the letters section, but there's great stuff in there. So, two friends are traveling on a cruise ship trying to find a meeting on a stop in Victoria, Canada. They're using the meeting guide app. We arrived at a junkyard filled with broken down vehicles, metal parts, and trash. The cab driver said he wasn't comfortable about leaving us in that location, so we started looking for another meeting. But just then, I saw two guys walking up the street carrying coffee cups.
The telltale coffee cup.
Yeah. I told the cab driver not to worry. It seems we're in the right place after all. The guys walked through all the junk and disappeared behind a gate. So we followed them. We waded our way through more garbage and more metal and more car parts, and we climbed up some stairs and found the meeting room. What an adventure. I love that. You don't know where you are in a town, and you can drive up. I don't know about this place. And you walk in, it's like, oh, I am home.
We can always spot an AA meeting. Like we congregate outside. There's the coffee cups for those of us that are still smoking. There's the smokers outside. Like you can always spot a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. I love this story.
Yeah.
Each December, we feature remote community stories. It's a great time of year to remember alcoholics who have a difficult time reaching AA meetings that are in person. There's one about a woman in a small Alaska village who shares how AA communities helped her in a place I call home.
And the story about an accessibilities committee in Illinois. They get together to help bring meetings to homebound and assisted living members in. Need a meeting? Call us.
We also have some beautiful sober holiday stories to enjoy. In A Gift That Lasts, a newcomer dad with no money makes a holiday memory for his sons that won't be forgotten.
In How I Made It Through the Holidays, a woman gets through her first sober December with alkathons and the love in the rooms. You can really feel her pain in this story. It's Christmas Eve. She's 11 days sober. She doesn't believe she can get through the night. But an AA member looks her in the eye. "You're going to make it. I can tell," he said matter-of-factly. She writes, "He seemed so sure. I don't know why I believed him, but I did. I stopped crying. I went home and fell asleep sober for the first Christmas Eve in a very, very long time." Whew.
Story. In the sponsorship story, what happens here? A member and his sponsor share a beautiful bond built on the shoulders of those before them, then pass it on to others. His sponsor once said, "The disease of alcoholism is progressive, but recovery is progressive too." I just love that.
Yeah, it gets better.
It gets better and better.
Well, Alice, who's our guest today?
I have a surprise for you. You seem to really like that story, How I Made It Through the Holidays.
Oh, yeah, it's strong.
Well, today our guest is the author, so we get to welcome Lisa C. from Bozeman, Montana. Her story is on page 36 of the December 2024 issue of the Grapevine.
All right, I'm looking forward to this one. But first, the news. The Grapevine is looking for atheist-agnostic AA members' stories. Do you have experience staying sober in AA as an atheist or agnostic? What have been your joys and challenges? We are looking for a variety of experiences. Please send us your stories. Stories are due by January 15th, 2025. Go to aagrapevine.org/share.
It's holiday gift time. We offer free shipping until December 31st at the Grapevine online store. Get the new book, Our 12 Steps.
Or a real favorite, Emotional Sobriety 1 or 2. There's the 2025 wall calendar with beautiful photos from AA members.
Or the Best Of bundle. 3 collections of the best of the Grapevine.
Gift certificates, subscriptions, and ebooks are also available. Order online at aagrapevine.org.
Don, this is the time of year for us to make true what we often say, which is I love Alcoholics Anonymous. By buying a subscription for someone, buying a new book. If you are sponsoring people, get them the Grapevine as a subscription. Get it for your doctor's office. What a beautiful way to make real the statement, I love Alcoholics Anonymous.
It's a beautiful gift.
Yep.
I'm Lisa. I'm an alcoholic from Bozeman, Montana, and my home group is There Is a Solution. My home group meets at 7 a.m. every day of the week. And I remember hearing one time in that meeting, I would rather take a meeting into my day than take my day into a meeting. My sobriety date is December 12th, 2013.
So you got sober in Bozeman, and we think of Bozeman as Boozman.
I mean, it was Boozman when you were there.
I think it probably still is. We have a lot of bars. We have a lot of breweries, but I moved here 3 months before I got sober. So
3 months before you got sober, was this a geographic move to try to fix your drinking?
it was. I had lived about an hour from here in Big Sky, Ski Town. As I was nearing my bottom, as life was getting harder and harder, I decided to go back to the last place I could remember being really happy, and that was Montana. And by then, I was married with 3 kids, and Big Sky was a little too remote for the whole family, so we moved to Bozeman, the nearest big town. I thought we had been living in Chicago, and I thought that moving from the big city to small town Montana removing all these stressors in my life would help me finally be able to control my drinking. And it didn't work out that way. I had more free time, but that just meant I spent more time drinking.
Well, you brought the kids with you, so you still have lots of stress. How old were your children?
They were 10, 8, and 3 at the time.
So how do you find time to go to AA and get sober? You've got to take care of this family. That would be an excuse, I would imagine.
My husband was pretty used to me not being around in the evenings, and it was an improvement that I was going to meetings and not going to the bars because I could be counted on to come home after about an hour
Hmm.
if I was going to the meetings, and that was not true in the last year of my drinking. I was a pretty high functioning alcoholic, until I wasn't, like so many of us. And then in that last year of my drinking, I just really completely lost control of how often and how much. So I usually was not where I should have been, and I usually was not doing what I should have been doing. And I remember at one of the first meetings I went to, I heard a woman say, "When you're a drunk mother, every day is a bottom."
Yeah.
Mm.
That really hit me. It still hits me. I understood that on a cellular level. I'd been living that for a while. When I heard her say that,
Lisa, what does that mean exactly?
I think of the time near my bottom. I just couldn't align my behavior with my
Mm.
values. It didn't matter how I wanted to show up in my life. It didn't matter how I wanted to show up at work or how I wanted to parent my children or be a wife to my husband or a sister, a daughter. And that being unable to align my behavior with my values was most excruciating with my kids.
Mm.
It was especially painful to look at their little faces, and I loved them so much, and I just could not take care of them the way that I wanted to and be with them the way that I wanted to.
Is that what caused you to break and reach out for help?
I That was definitely part of it. I also had the feeling that my marriage might not last too much
Yeah.
longer. I was and am married to a really good man. And I'm the child of a marriage that died because of my father's drinking. And then he got sober 2 or 3 years later. He never told me he wished it had been a little sooner, but I suspect that that's true. I know my parents loved each other a lot, and drinking was the reason that they couldn't make it work. And I didn't want to repeat that
Yeah.
story.
Mm.
You know, what is amazing about what you're saying, I realize there's a problem, but I still think the problem is outside of me. Like if I move to another city, if I get a new job, if I strengthen my relationship, like I think the problem's outside. And I hear you saying you moved and then there you were.
Exactly. I knew I was an alcoholic by the time I was leaving Chicago for Bozeman. I knew that I had lost control of how often and how much. And I grew up in a family where I knew what that meant. And I knew about AA, and I knew that people got sober. My dad got sober when I was 13.
Is that where you heard of AA the first time?
Yeah, I used to go to meetings with him. And he would tell me later he used to go to meetings with his mom. His mom got sober in AA.
Wow.
So I'm the third generation. And you might think that that would have helped me as I was circling the drain, but
It
Yeah.
doesn't.
the disease just robbed us of hope. Even though I had had this really powerful example in my life, I still was 100% sure it wouldn't work for me. I think that's just the disease. I mean, I think the disease tells us that it will never get better. I can never quit drinking. Even if I could, life wouldn't be worth living without alcohol. And these are all the lies that the disease is telling us as the pain intensifies so that we don't try to do anything different.
You tell the story in the grapevine of believing a member when they say you're going to make it.
Yeah.
You've got the example of your dad. He tells you that he had the example of his mother,
Mm.
and you don't believe any of that. But there's a random guy in the meeting that says you're going to make it, and you
Yeah.
believe him. Will you talk about the miracle of that?
I went to my first meeting on December 6th, and then it was 6 days later that I had my first 24 hours. That was after a year of day drinking, middle of the night drinking, waking up
Yeah.
shaking, waking up, vomiting, and just bottles of vodka under the seat of my car, in my desk at work. I mean, any rules I had ever tried to make or enforce about my drinking were really out the window. So to get 24 hours was so miraculous to me. And then
Yeah.
by December 24th, I had 13 days. And so it was very clear to me even then that something different was happening. I didn't know the steps. I didn't have a higher power. I got a sponsor within that first month. It's a little blurry, of course, but right away I knew something was different because on my own, I couldn't get 13 days. I mean, I couldn't get 13 hours. To think about a drink was to have it in my hand, and I thought about a drink all the time.
And you were thinking about a drink that day as well.
Yeah.
Reading your story, that's what really moved me, was because I could feel it like I felt it when I first quit drinking. The thing inside of me going, "You will drink. You don't have a choice."
Yeah, that voice was definitely with me through those holidays, and that voice didn't leave me in a hurry. I heard it less often, and I didn't have
Mhm.
to obey it. But the disease was still loud and clear inside my head at times, especially at difficult times. Just telling me, you're going to fail eventually. You're going to disappoint everybody
Mm.
eventually. We might as well just get it over with. Why are you trying so hard?
But here we are in your anniversary month.
Yeah.
It's December and the holidays are here. And, even if I made it through Halloween, even if I made it through Thanksgiving, man, Christmas and New Year's is going to get me. It's not true.
Mm-mm.
It's not true. So if I didn't say it, happy anniversary month.
Thank you. I love having a December birthday.
So, how did you get through it? How did you get through Christmas
Hmm.
with the stress, the expectations with all your kids and your family, the voice inside saying you will drink? How did you get through that?
One answer is if Thanksgiving is bad enough, that can help. Thanksgiving that year, just a couple weeks before my first meeting I was slurring my words, I was stumbling. If I tried to be more sober than I wanted to be, I was so irritable that I couldn't stand to be around these people that I love. I mean, it was my dad, my mom, my stepdad, my sisters, my husband, my kids. Like, these are my favorite people in the world. And I couldn't bear to be around them. And I pretended to be sick and drank warm vodka out of a bottle in my suitcase. There was no part of me that wanted to repeat any of that on Christmas or on New
Yeah.
Year's or on any other holiday ever again.
So, I was thinking through the drink.
Exactly. And knowing that that was where it would take me. And then the other thing was that that first 24 hours from that first week and that first month, I really had this feeling that the stars might not ever align for me again. Like, I
Hmm.
didn't want to take it for granted that I could just pick a different sobriety date in January.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started to do it, that felt so precious to me and so improbable and miraculous. And I just didn't ever want to gamble with it. And that is a feeling that I think has saved me more than once. We all know people who had some sobriety, and people wrestle with that feeling where they want to come back in and they just can't do it.
Yes, I've seen it many times.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I don't know for sure that I could do it, and I don't want to find out.
I hear you talking about the gift of desperation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And often people call that gift of desperation God, right? God.
That desperation is what gave me the willingness. You mentioned God. I didn't want anything to do with that when I came in, but I was so desperate. And people were telling me, you can just ask your higher power, which you don't believe in, to keep you sober today, and thank your higher power for keeping you sober at the end of the day. Just start there. And I did that, and I stayed sober. Lisa, what is your journey with that?
I also did not believe in God when I got to AA, and I hadn't for a long time. I didn't want to change that about myself. I very much wanted to quit drinking, but the idea of becoming someone who had faith was scary to me.
Yes.
I got a sponsor. She asked me to pray, and it was similar, Don, to the prayers you were told to say of please help me stay sober in the morning, and then thank you for helping me stay sober at night. I met with her after she made that request. She asked me if I had been doing that, and I said no. She said, well, why not? I said, well, I don't believe in God. I feel ridiculous praying. How could it possibly help me when I don't believe in God? And she said, it doesn't matter. You need to do it anyway. And then she reminded me that I had said I was willing to go to any lengths.
Hmm.
And
They always get you with that.
yeah. And then she said, how about this? Why don't you pray for the willingness to pray? So I agreed that
Mm.
I would do that. And then after a few days of praying for the willingness to pray, that felt so silly to me that I thought, all right, I'll just go to the prayers that she's suggesting, So it worked. I suddenly found that I was willing to say the prayers that she had asked me to say. And those were the only prayers that I said for a long time. Help me and thank you.
Did having a family member that was part of Alcoholics Anonymous help you move into the solution?
There's no question that it did. And it came through my sister. I have a younger sister who's also a sober member of AA. And she started going to meetings about a month before that miserable Thanksgiving. And I was talking to her, and she just mentioned that she had started going to meetings. I didn't know that she had been wrestling with her drinking. It wasn't something that we had ever talked about. We had done a lot of drinking together, but I hadn't told her that I was scared. She hadn't told me. But when she told me that she had started going to meetings, I just spilled my guts and said, I'm really scared. I know I need help.
Ooh, that set a spotlight on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember asking my sister, how did you know it was time to go to a meeting? Was sort of stuck in this feeling that something worse had to happen to me than the things that were already happening. Like my husband had to actually leave, or I had to get a DUI, or I had to get fired from my job. And these were all things that were sort of within the realm of possibility on any given day, but they hadn't happened yet. My sister told me she had slept through the night when she meant to be the tooth fairy for my niece. And that was her line of like,
Mm.
it's taking this away from me, and I'm not
Yeah,
okay with that.
yeah.
I mentioned earlier this terrible feeling of not being able to show up for my kids the way that I wanted to. And it just never occurred to me that I could say, that's enough.
What was the line for you?
I think there had been so many lines. For whatever reason, none of those arrested my downward momentum. I just kept crossing those
Yeah.
lines.
But what was the time that you called?
Well, she called me and she told me that she was doing something different, and that became a reason that I could try it too. She helped me find a meeting in Bozeman.
Wow.
And I remember telling her this meeting is at 6 o'clock at night. There's no way I can go to this meeting sober. And she said, oh, that's okay. They'll be really nice to you about that.
That's right. That's right. Come drunk or sober. We just want you to come to AA.
Yeah, the only requirement for membership is a
A
desire.
desire to stop drinking. The steps help you stay stopped. They don't help you stop.
Yeah.
How did you muster up the courage to say, not today? Like, I'm not going to drink today. Talk a little bit about how you mustered that up.
When I remember that phone call with my sister, it does feel to me now like an intervention from my higher power. I'm taught to pray for all the still suffering, that they hear a message when they can hear it. It's not enough to hear a message. It's got to be when we can hear it, when we are
Yeah.
ready. That phone call from my sister where I realized I didn't have to wait for anything worse. That is a sufficient amount of pain.
Yeah.
Once I got into the rooms, it was the confidence of the people in the rooms. These were people who drank like me. And I remember hearing a guy who he talked about waking up in jail after his fifth DUI. And he thought, I have got to stop driving. I never got a DUI, but I understood what he was saying. I understood that feeling of just making your world smaller and smaller and smaller to accommodate your drinking, even when you don't want to be doing that anymore. Then I could really hear. I could hear the things that were said in meetings that I could relate to. I could hear the
Yeah.
instructions and I could follow them whether I really wanted to or not. And I could borrow the faith that the people in the rooms had when they looked at me and said, "Oh, you can, yeah, that can be the end. That can be the end of your drinking. That can be the last drink you ever have to take."
How did you write an article for the Grapevine? How did that come to be?
I think it might have been my friend Lynn was on the podcast, and I think maybe I heard you guys say that there was a call for articles about how to get through the holidays. I sat down at my computer. I remember that story just poured out of me. I didn't work on it for more than maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour.
Once you start writing, the switch flows and then you just write the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've been sober a long time now.
Hmm.
You have a full family and a full life that you have all these responsibilities to. How are you staying sober today and meeting all your obligations?
I was taught early that anything that I put before my sobriety will be the first thing I lose. And I really took that to heart. It would have been easy as a mother of three young children to think my children have to come first. And I love my children with all my heart, but I know that I can't be the mother I want to be to them if my sobriety comes second. So I still go to a lot of meetings. I have a sponsor. I sponsor women. They sponsor women, which I love.
Mm.
I do quite a bit of service work in AA. There's a part of the book that says we need to keep growing spiritually, and that we do that through self sacrifice and work for others. And so I'm grateful for those instructions on how to grow spiritually. That isn't something I know how to do on my own.
Right.
Doing that work for others, it's like sometimes I can feel my grinchy little heart like growing three sizes like it does in the cartoon, you know? Uh, that is what service brings to me.
It opens my grinchy little heart.
Yes. The thought that serving other people makes me happy was preposterous when I got here.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
Be bothered with these
Hmm.
people, right? But
Yeah,
I hear you saying, like, it's the thing that I do in service of others that makes it possible for me to be the mom I want to be, the wife I want to be, the employee I want to be. It's miraculous.
it really is.
Lisa, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a letter from Ryan B. in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Hi, Don, Olis, and Sam. Am I missing something? I was listening to the 11/18/24 podcast when your mystery guest, Sober Don, that's me, said that there were 7 ways to stay sober during the holidays. I thought the list was so good that I wrote them down, but I only counted 6 on your list. 1, have a service commitment. 2, go to meetings. 3, call your sponsor. 4, have an exit plan for parties. 5, have or host a party with sober friends. And 6, reach out to newcomers. I'm so bothered by this that I'm feeling a resentment coming on. What was the 7th way to stay sober? Ryan, you got me. Oh, God. Yeah, I listened back to it, and I only listed 6 of the 7 that were given to me by the Grapevine coordinators. The one that I missed was go to or volunteer at an alkathon. I skipped it. That's what I get for not being more organized. I should have written the thing down and had a little board and marked it off when they said them, but instead I was like reading an email and going back and forth, and I lost it. So we have a winner! Ryan, you don't need a resentment because now you're given the gift of the warm glow of accomplishment. Thank you for fact-checking. Sobriety squabble. It did lead to a little bit of squabble. I'm glad you're sober. I hope everybody got something out of all of these suggestions. And if anybody has another suggestion, send it in quick. Thanks for writing. We got this email from Sherry K. in Florence, Alabama. Keep calm and thon on. What is the correct spelling of alkathon? You know, the marathon AA meetings typically held during the holidays. I've seen it spelled different ways, such as ALCO-thon, ALCA-thon, or ALKA-thon. What say the Grapevine podcasters? Thanks, Sherry. Sherry, let's not sweat the small stuff. But just between you and me, I like ALKA, Alkathon. Hang in there. Keep calm. It's going to be all right. Thanks for writing.
Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the Grapevine magazine in print or in the AA Grapevine app. Your support makes this podcast possible.
I'm at the very wit's end. Cuckoo.
0 stars. Take a look at these customer reviews of the AA World Services Meeting Guide app.
Would not recommend.
Beer.
Lost a dear friend due to this app.
Vodka.
I went to a closed meeting and they told me I could stay if I had the desire not to drink myself.
Wine.
It's really not that funny.
Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.